Hello, and welcome back to Mystery of Raid. The following are the 4 stories of the mentors introduced in Monarch. As always, these stories are the property of Legend Story Studios, and I am here just to narrate them. These particular stories were written by Nicola Price and edited by Taryn Thomas. You can always find the written stories at the Flesh and Blood TCG website, or through the links in the description. But now, please, enjoy the 4 mentor stories. The Librarian, Mentor of Prism. The Library of Illumination stands at the very heart of the bright city of Solana, rising high above the surrounding buildings on every side. It remains a sanctuary for any person with a curious mind and a desire to learn. The soaring shelves are lined with books from floor to ceiling, towering above the heads of visitors and staff alike. Scholars of the light of soul draw books down with a gesture, aether curling through the air as they source another volume for their studies. Citizens of Solana sit quietly in the archival wings, reading tomes and illuminated manuscripts, while children gather at the feet of acolytes in shining robes, listening to tales of noble knights and radiant scholars. 8 magisters watch over Solana's golden walls and towers, guiding its people throughout the ages with grace and dignity. Each one is ordained under the light of soul, and all work alongside the Grand Magister to bring peace to the land of Raid, to unite all under the banner of soul. One Magister watches over the Library of Illumination, and is responsible for overseeing everything that occurs within its hallowed halls. The Librarian oversees all, a radiant and dignified custodian, dedicated to guiding the library's patrons along the path of the light. Carrying an air of mystery, they are as timeless and illustrious as the library itself. In their role as Magister, the Librarian embodies the grace of soul, sharing their endless knowledge and wisdom with anyone who seeks their counsel. Beyond their essential duty to the people of Solana and their role in caring for the library, the Librarian also leads the quests for new knowledge, scouring ancient tomes and crumbling scrolls procured from across the land of Raid. For many decades, the Librarian was accustomed to solitude, preferring to withdraw for days at a time and focus on their research. However, this changed when a young girl found her way into the innermost sanctum of the library and quickly established herself as the Librarian's would-be apprentice. With their new protégé by their side, the Librarian seeks out the truth behind the recent onslaught of the Shadow, using their talents to unravel the mysteries which now threaten their fair city of light. Minerva Themis, Mentor of Bolton. Their lives first began as orphaned foundlings, struggling to survive beyond the Golden Fields. Minerva and her twin brother were rescued by a traveling knight and brought into Solana at a very young age, and given sanctuary within the city's walls. From there, it took little time for the twins to be selected for the Gemini, where the skills they'd learned on the streets could best be utilized. Together, Minerva and Mercurius made an almost unstoppable team, as they traveled beyond Solana's walls to gather information in the lands beyond. From the volatile, arid landscape of Volcor to the towering, copper skylands of Metrix, the pair worked side by side, bringing their invaluable insights into potential threats to the city. But on one dark night, as they crept between underground taverns, they inadvertently stumbled into an ambush. Between her experience, her skill and sheer luck, Minerva managed to escape with her life, but only after she'd seen her brother cut down in the brief battle. Bitter and jaded, Minerva returned to the Gemini and threw herself into her work. No one knows what she sought beyond the walls, but in time she finally returned to the city she called home, where she decided to open an inn. Working behind the counter of her new establishment, Minerva could greet the visitors who had passed through Solana's gates and listen to their conversations, thus monitoring their activities within the city. As the owner of the Golden Chariot, Minerva now has a new reason for being, and the opportunity to meet many travelers and citizens of Solana. To some, she is a friendly face in an unfamiliar city. To others, she is a mentor, offering comfort and words of wisdom. In this, Minerva has found a way to be at peace with her past and the loved ones whom she has lost. While Mercurius is no longer with her, there are others that she can help. A young knight with a heart of gold, determined to defend her people. a former nobleman turned warrior, searching for a higher calling, a fellow Gemini, working as a diplomat, ever graceful in her quest to seek out the truth, a bright and curious scholar, weaving stories in the light of dawn. Minerva is a friend to all, determined to bring peace to those who pass through her tavern, and be a shoulder to lean on in their darkest hour. Lady Bartimond, mentor of Levia. Born the daughter of a noble house in the northern realms, the future Lady Bartimond was raised with the grace and cunning expected of a woman of her rank. Once she had come of age, her father quickly found a match for her, marrying her to another lord in order to secure the power and status that he felt his daughter rightfully deserved. But when Lady Bartimond had moved to her new estate with her servants in tow, expecting a life of luxury and comfort, she was faced with a harsh reality. Lord Bartimond was lazy, dull, and impassive. He gallivanted across the plains with his hunting parties, his inexperienced new wife to take over the running of the estate in his absence, toiling over paperwork and engaging in empty pleasantries with unwanted visitors. Over the years, as she watched her youth wither away, she grew ever more embittered by her absent husband and the mundane, maddening work he left her to face alone. This continued until one very ordinary day, when a visitor to Lady Bartimond's hall brought her an intriguing gift, a grimoire of mysterious origin. The tome had clearly changed hands many times, its dark leather cover worn by the touch of its past owners. Within this grimoire, she experienced her first introduction to the shadow, an arcane art which promised her the kind of power she'd always dreamt of wielding. Delving into its depths, she quickly discovered her arcane gifts, a connection to the Aether which she found blossoming within her day by day. As her talents grew, so did her hunger for power. Lady Bartimond began to draw upon the resources made available through her aristocratic status, sacrificing the blood of her servants in fiendish rituals, spending her fortune on sourcing arcane artifacts from across the continent, and inviting other practitioners among the nobility into her home. In this way, her lavish parties formed the basis for gaining more and more knowledge, and eventually she found exactly what she'd been searching for. Lady Bartimond decided that she would seek to call upon an entity from the beyond, who could imbue her with its own power and allow her to bend all others to her will. Yet before she could move into the final phase of her plans, they were overturned, and one of her own treacherous servants stole the power for her own. The final indignity was dying by the young woman's hands, strangled by the very might she had sought for herself. Lord Sutcliffe, mentor of Chain. Lord Sutcliffe was once an ordinary member of the noble class, but he abandoned his title and lands in his quest for knowledge. He made a new home for himself within the monastery's ancient halls, spending many years studying the shadows and reading about runes and rituals, perfecting his knowledge of the arcane arts. As he was one of the few members of his bloodline to be born without any Aether affinity whatsoever, Sutcliffe could not personally practice any of the spellwork he was reading about. However, he was seeking to explore the true depths of the Aether, in order to establish whether man could artificially lay claim to the abilities of the arcane. In time, Sutcliffe's research evolved into the Arc-Knight project. He sought to create a living weapon, a man who could wield both might and magic. In essence, he would transform a subject who had been born without Aether affinity and unlock his ability to cast spells. Later, when he found that a fresh body had washed up on the shore near the monastery, Sutcliffe knew that his opportunity had come. Viceroy was all that Sutcliffe had wished for, and more. He proved that it was possible to artificially unlock Aether affinity, and forge a potential power that every human might well carry. However, Sutcliffe struggled to keep control of his living weapon. With the monastery's creatures whispering in the new Arc-Knight's ear, Lord Sutcliffe quickly found himself on the wrong side of the battle. However, as his disemboweled body lay cold and silent on the concrete, a strange creature approached, taking Sutcliffe's head for its own diabolical plans. Preserved with layers of runework and bound by intricate spells, Sutcliffe is trapped within his own mind, carried around like a common trophy. The disciples of pain quickly came to possess his skull, and now bother him constantly with their inane questions, forcing him to suffer through their unending chatter about duty and sacrifice. While the old researcher attempts to steal him for their own purposes, Lord Sutcliffe cares little about what may become of him. As a disembodied voice trapped within its skull, his life is an unending torment of infuriating half-wits and idle conversation. Unable to escape, subjected to the whims of others with no recourse, Lord Sutcliffe can only dream of the day he enacts his revenge on the one who brought him to this dark fate. Eventually, one way or another, he will find the means to make Viceroy pay for his disobedience.